Bob Denison is one of these larger-than-life guys, and the name Denison is synonymous with yachting in Broward County and Fort Lauderdale for sure, with Broward Yachts. His grandparents. I had a lot of interaction with them, did a lot of work with them over the years, and I say that the bridge that goes over the 17th Street Causeway Bridge should be the Denison Bridge, as a matter of fact, because they were, how many did they build over 80 feet, Bob?
About 300.
300 yachts over 80 feet, and I managed about 290 of them, I think. So Bob has a very interesting bio, and I'm going to make it brief. He has accomplished two things in life, two cool things in life. Married the prettiest girl alive, Daniela. Together, they figured out how to have 5 kids, Rivers, Nora, Summer, Scout, and Finn. We were just talking about work-life balance. I bet you have to deal with that all the time, too. Ladies and gentlemen, Bob Denison.
All right. Hey, guys, how are you? I've got with me 3 really smart people, and these look freaking crazy, right? Has everybody been using these today? Yeah? All right. So we are going to use these, and we're going to talk about AI and yachting. I'm going to introduce the 3 panelists with me. We're going to have a conversation very specific to our industry. Rob is to the far left. He is with Peak Activity, and I'm going to plug him. If anybody here is operating or involved with marketing, he and Peak tackle all of those big challenges. They work with big companies, small companies. They're based down here in South Florida. Rob's a really good guy and knows what he's talking about. He also works with the FBI, which is pretty cool. Mike Duncan is the Chief Technology Officer of the greatest marine business in the world. There's a distant second place, Marine Max first place, One Water Marine. He's in charge of all kinds of awesome technology, all kinds of awesome things involved with marketing, and he's the man in charge of the whole like big ship of One Water doing great things. And Tim Hasse is a guy that is, does anybody here ever do like what is it called? The cooperative workspaces? There's a working space? Co-working? Yeah, a co-working space like WeWork? No? All right. Well, if anybody here is an independent contractor and you're like sick and tired of working from home and you don't have a big office somewhere, in Nashville and here in Fort Lauderdale, Tim has a company called General Provision that is one of the coolest like communities of founders and creative people, and also runs Trim, which is a big app development company, and they do a lot of like web solutions and stuff like that. So as we're thinking about AI, these guys know what they're talking about, and we are going to start this conversation kind of like the idea of, we hear words like machine learning, AI, algorithm. I honestly get them confused myself all the time. Like, is an algorithm kind of serving some of those same functions? Like, what's the difference between all this stuff? Rob, we'll start with you. If you could just give a 2-second overview, kind of like what the hell is it and how is it going to affect a space like ours?
Yeah. Really, really high level. If you've ever used conditional formatting in an Excel sheet,
they don't know what that is.
I got you. So that cell in that cell sheet goes from green to red when you put a number in it. Okay, that is their lowest form of like artificial intelligence, machine learning, algorithmic idea. But realistically, you can bucket it all underneath AI, whether it's a large language model like ChatGPT or an algorithm. It is really condensing information and providing an output that's meaningful to the user, whoever that is. Whether it's text, whether it's an image, whether it's code, doesn't really matter, but it's a machine that generates something that you need in some way, shape, or form. And I'm hoping that you guys both argue with me on this to make sure that this gets really specific.
So before I ask Mike and before I ask Tim if they would add to that, how many times a day, honestly, are you using some form of AI?
90% of what I do is enabled, assisted by artificial intelligence.
That's crazy. Okay, Mike, would you add anything to your description of AI?
I agree. I thought about this a lot when you sent me over a question, describe AI in 2 sentences, which is absolutely insanely impossible. And this might be the most boring talk that you guys could ever have today. I'm quite sure of it. It really is teaching a computer to solve a problem. And I think the biggest thing that people take away from this, they see the sci-fi movies and they think that AI is this thing that learns and is going to take over the world and it's Terminator. It's not. I've been a programmer my whole life. It is literally teaching something to do something that you want it to do, something repetitive that is there. Can it cognitively figure out things and solve problems? Yes, but it has to use data to make that happen. I've been using AI since the inception of AI, and that term is very grossly overused. They put it in every NASDAQ thing that's out there. Everything's AI. AI is it. We have an idea as a computer guy. I'd love for it to self-think and do these kind of things, but it simply doesn't. Right? It only is as good as the data that you give it, and I think that the key to this is understanding using a chat GBT is only going to be as good as the information that you give it and as well as the prompts that you build. So learning how to use prompts is a big deal. Understanding action words is a big deal.
All right, hold on.
And then I'm just
Hold on,
I'm
just
gonna
stop. What is a prompt? So we're going to talk about chat GPT a little bit. I think most people here have either heard of or used chat GPT. For those that haven't, what the hell is a prompt? And how can you use a prompt to get through your day, be more productive, be more efficient, or whatever?
You want me to answer that?
Yeah. But you guys are just dropping crap like prompts and some Excel conditional formatting. I don't even know what any of that stuff is. What is a prompt? How do you attach a prompt to like getting stuff done?
So, how many people have used ChatGPT? Pretty much everybody in this room, I would hope. Or
Actually, hold on a second. Sorry. How many have used ChatGPT more than once in the last 7 days? Honestly. Okay. Wow. Okay. That's a lot of people.
how many Gemini users?
How many Claude users?
Oh, getting slim, huh? Super slim. So when you ask ChatGPT to do something, and it's probably remedial, and if you guys are using it the way you probably use it, like, can you proofread this letter for me? A friend of mine's pet just died, and I don't know how to address them. And you ask them a question like that, and it gives you some really good feedback. How do I post on Facebook that shows grievance, right? And it'll give you sentiments back. Super easy things to do. But these prompts can be far more complex than that. It can solve problems. It can write code. It can do computative analysis on deep data. You can take it and do screenshots of Google Analytics and ask it to go through and rip through all the data and then give you back an analysis of what it thinks. And then you can have it brainstorm ideas for you to come up with other ways to penetrate a market, right? So there's some really cool things that you can do. If you don't learn anything here today, go home and ask ChatGPT for action words. Go, ChatGPT, what are action words that I can use to better my prompts? Prompts are just literally questions. How do I do this? Or how do I do that? Can you solve 2 + 2, right? Can you solve 2 + 2 and tell me why 2 + 2 is 4? So that's what a prompt is.
There you go.
A prompt is just asking the computer to give you a result.
And Tim, would you add anything to that as far as like how you would define something like AI?
Maybe just some clarification. We've covered some good ground already, but there's the language of the terminology mess, right? There's a lot of language, a lot of terminology you get to parse right now around AI, and it is an overused term, as mentioned, but machine learning gets thrown in there a lot as well. So if I could just add anything to kind of turn the corner on the next topic, is machine learning, if that's thrown at you, was really the precursor to what we're now describing as AI. So it's kind of the engine that helps build up to what is now being described as modern AI. And I think that's all we really need to add to wrap up and get to the next topic.
And then using it, you have people in here that are, there's a few different buckets. You have people here that are obviously in sales, some are administrative, some are in marketing, and we'll start with sales. If you were engaging with somebody here that made a living, and as you guys know, men and women in the yacht brokerage community, it's like you eat what you kill. It's a scary, hard, aggressive, like very intense. How could they use ChatGPT or other things like that to help sell a boat, prospect, list a boat, stuff like that? We'll start with you, Mike, and then we'll go to Rob and Tim.
Well, that's what I do for a living. I sell boats, and I use computer technology to do that. Everything from the website to leading people through a journey, finding the boat online through either social media, phone ringing them with a bot, which is crazy, right? A voice model that can call somebody after looking at a boat and have a trigger on a website for a certain amount of time. That leads into putting it into a database that I then nurture them with an AI chat bot to get their phone number and email address so I can call and talk to them, right? So everything that I do on a daily basis is try to get a human being to talk to another human being. But I do it with bots because I don't have enough human beings to call every single person that goes to my website, right? So it's all the remedial task of, I want to send this guy a follow-up email as soon as he sends out a contact form. That's the most basic AI that you can do, right? It's a lead nurture email that's asking them to give you something else. You probably have done something like live chat on a website, right? We have live chat that is simply trying to get a phone number and an email. So one of you salespeople can call them up and sell them a yacht. And that's what we're trying to do on a daily basis. We do it through the whole cycle, right? Through the whole sales cycle. And not only that, after the sales cycle, we figure out, hey, well, we need to nurture this guy even more and all of his friends. And we go and scrape his social media. We see all of his friends. We make all his friends jealous that he just got a new boat and they all have to have new boats. And we try to convince them of that too. So it's never ending, Bob.
Cool. Rob, would you add anything to that on the sales side of it?
Yeah, for sure. I think okay, I'm going to say this. This is my disclaimer from here moving forward. If you're using ChatGPT and you're using the free version of ChatGPT, you're making ChatGPT much better, okay? Just naturally, you're already opted into making their artificial intelligence better. If you're using the free version, don't be uploading some of the things that I'm going to talk about from this point forward. Everyone nod? Great. No one nodded. Okay, so if I wanted to do like a very practical implementation of artificial intelligence or use AI, because I've never used AI in the sales space before, I would take an email chain that's 30 emails back and forth with a prospect or 10 emails back and forth with a prospect and ask the artificial intelligence to look at that email chain and pull out what indicators that person gave me that I was going to close that deal, right? I just went through this process of selling. I just understood how I went through it, but now I have an executive leadership 24/7 sales coach that can give me pointers of, hey, in this email, probably would have said this differently. Or when they said this, this is a good idea that you could do.
So hold on a second. So
really
you're
easy way.
gonna take that thread. I really like this as like a use case or whatever. You take that thread, and would you suggest, and I assume you would put that into something like ChatGPT or other, right?
Could, yeah.
And when you say other, what are some other things that you could engage that thread with? ChatGPT.
Yeah, so ChatGPT is probably the largest known name.
Yep.
The ones that we were listing off before. So Google has what's called Google Gemini, right? Same exact thing as ChatGPT, just run by Google. There's another tool that's called Claude. Same exact thing as ChatGPT, same exact thing as Google.
Okay, so let's keep with those three: Claude, Gemini, ChatGPT.
Exactly.
Have you ever taken, I love that idea, thread of it back and forth, and you basically, the prompt would be something like, can you please give me some good pointers or some good takeaways from this as a next reply back to the customer?
Yeah, it could be that, or it could be, can you analyze this and tell me things that I've missed? Okay. What indicators in the sales process that this was a buyer that I missed and didn't address it in my replies as Rob or as...
I love that.
Yeah.
Because like when I have my sales manager hat on often, and one of the frustrating things for me as a sales manager, whatever role that is, and also as a customer, is when you ask 3 questions and a salesperson comes back with 2 answers, and you're like, why the hell didn't you tell me and it could say, hey, you missed that unintentionally, but you didn't reply back on hours of generator or whatever.
Now, the really interesting thing is, no matter which model you use, or you use the same model the same time, it'll always give you different answers, right? For the most part. It's going to tell you, Claude's going to tell you one thing, Gemini's going to tell you one thing, OpenAI is going to tell you something different. So it's good to know that you're going to get some variation in the responses back.
I'm going to get to marketing next, but on the sales side, to the yacht brokers in the room, Tim, would you add anything else to that as far as like sales process, how AI and those tools can help them?
Maybe just to tack on some tactical advice as it relates to the landscape. I mean, I'm sure everyone in sales is living in some sort of CRM, and the beauty of the time that we're in is that we're not only we have tools at our own fingertips, but these platforms are obviously integrating their own AI integrations into their own tools. So sometimes, they converge and we end up building the same thing from scratch that the bigger platform built. What I'm getting at is, if you're using Salesforce or HubSpot, a lot of their tooling already includes some really great data cleansing and intelligence out of the box. Then they've either acquired it or built it along the way using some of these generative AI tools that we're talking about. But from that, you can just take it further. You can enhance that. You can go even beyond. So just some tactical stuff as it relates to sales and marketing. My silver bullet tooling for no-code solutions, if you can tack on an automation tool like Zapier, which we can talk about, but that's just a very nice no-code tool that starts to link different tools together between a spreadsheet, GPT, and CRM with Zapier. You're in a very dangerous place for a lot of sales and marketing automation and leveraging a lot of the most up-to-date AI tools.
I love that. And then just to stick with sales for a second, do any of you guys have any advice or any experience with prospecting, like finding new people to talk to?
Yeah.
And what does that look like? Just very quickly, what would a prompt be or a query?
Okay. Yeah. Do you want to tackle one first? Then I'll go. You got excited. Go.
Well, no, it's misleading, right? You need to understand that AI comes in different forms and different tools, and there's not a one tool fits all here. And when they go, oh, well, ChatGPT, I use that, therefore I must have all the AI tools. Not the case. Prospecting is vastly different than a linguistic content creator like a ChatGPT. I would use something like an Apollo for you guys. Apollo IO is fantastic. And what it does is it goes out and it looks at social platforms, profiling, and it puts those together. So you can go, I'm looking for a male between 45 and 55 that earns, $1 million a year, that has a boat slip and 3 homes in this coastal area, whatever. And those types of tools will do that. I will tell you that Apollo, I've looked at probably 20 of these things. Apollo would be the one I would sit here on stage. I'm not affiliated with them. I don't personally use them. I think it's a fantastic tool for prospecting. Prospecting also comes into enrichment, and these are like lead enrichments. There's one for this industry called...
So just real quick, in case you don't know, lead enrichment would be a lead comes in, it just has a phone number or it just has an email, and you also want to know maybe the company this guy or gal works for, and also the opposing data point that's missing, right?
Correct. So we get a lot of that, right? That's somebody just going to go and say, hey, I'm Mike Duncan, and here's my Gmail account. They're going to go out there and scrape all the things that I've ever done in the atmosphere for my Gmail account. They're going to come back and go, this guy's on Facebook, Instagram, he's posted all this crap about whatever it may be, and they're going to assimilate all that and send it back to me in a nice little bow and package, and you can figure out what's going on. Apollo then goes and says, well, hey, Mike also has all these other associated friends that also say, oh, I like all his boat posts about Grady Whites, and therefore I like Grady Whites and everybody else likes Grady Whites. Awesome. There's another company called Windfall. I don't know if you guys have used Windfall. Windfall is, again, I'm not affiliated with Windfall, but I think it's one that you should write down and take a look. They're marine vertical. They get stuff like, did they pull a CAMA permit? Do they have a boat lift? And things like that. And you go, oh, well, if this guy has a boat lift, I want to market to him. And not only that, I can geo-target them. I can say within this zip code. So if they're in my backyard, I want to go and grab this guy that's got a boat lift in my backyard, and I can get all of his friends, and I can get his net worth, and I can get how active he is on any marine websites. Super awesome.
You're like, that's enough secrets for you.
Right. Okay.
Okay, just so you know. Rob, anything on that front?
Yeah. So love Apollo, 100% back them up. Not affiliated with them. If there's an alternative, I would go like Seamless.ai. It's my alternate. Instead of Windfall. Was that the
Windfall?
Windfall. Yeah. We use a very specific tool that's called Whitebridge.ai. So what we're all talking about is like open source intelligence, what you can find openly on the internet. Whitebridge AI is something that we use when we want a single person. I know this person's first name and last name, and I want every single piece of information across every single platform that I can find. And we'll use something like a Whitebridge AI, which is a little bit creepy.
And you were telling me in the back, it also works with ex-girlfriends really well.
Very well. Or there's a lot of divorce conversations, ex-wives, ex-husbands. Works very well if you want to do that.
Tim, on the marketing side, what are some other tools that you can use to have AI help you do a better job more efficiently, more everything better? What would be a good marketing use case or example that you could use AI as a tool?
Sure. I mean, I think the data aggregation point from Apollo, so we're a big Apollo user as well. But I think back to how some of these tools are adding their own AI to their own platforms versus how you handle and use AI on your own. One of our everyday use cases in my teams, in our line of business, is that we're actually taking the data from the aggregators like Apollo and then doing our own cleansing with it with the tools, because that allows us to go better outbound on the marketing side, right? So you can export. This is what we're paying for with a tool like Apollo. You're paying for this access to this massive set of people. And even though they're internally on the Apollo side, positioning themselves as being able to cleanse that intelligently, you can go to a deeper layer that's more specialized to your business. If you bring that data out, cleanse it in the AI tools that we're speaking about, and then position your marketing about that, position that into your own marketing database, bring that into your CRM, better segmentation, more focused dialogue to your users. And so I think the net of all this from my perspective is that we can just get a lot more granular, a lot more specialized, and a lot more relevant to this massive corpus of data by using these tools that we're discussing.
And then, Mike, you just returned. Yeah, I think most people here know HubSpot as one of the best CRMs out there. Mike took his team at One Water up to Boston. They have a big conference called Inbound. You just went up there like a month ago. And they talk a lot about using AI to leverage email marketing, web, like social stuff. Can you speak to anything cool that they're doing or talking about that would be exciting? Like I heard something about you could your machine learning will tell you that this page is going to have a quick exit, so you need to adjust something on that and make it more appealing to somebody with an IP address from Spain as opposed to somebody with an IP address from wherever.
Yeah, there's certainly they tout a lot of AI. How many HubSpot users are there in here? We got some. I would say that HubSpot is a very, very good place for you guys to start for a CRM if you don't have one, especially if you're a sole proprietor. It's very inexpensive to get into and get started. They have a lot of AI built-in integrated tools for data mining and doing exactly what you said. What's cool about it is it gives you some platforms and workflow processes for dynamic contenting. So you can build dynamic emails, and a lot of it is the AI-generated dynamic emails. We used to do A/B testing right back when it was in the old days, and we would build actually 2 different ones. Well, this thing can now dynamically talk to you. It can go and look at your profile, your personal profile, embed content from the ChatGPT or an open source, write something that's very personal to you and send that out instead of having one curated email that I blasted out to my entire thing. Now I've got one that's specifically for me and talking to me specifically, knowing that I have the type of boat that I have in particular, and going, hey, Mike, I see that you've got a 21 Grady. We just got the new ones in. They changed up the consoles and blah, blah, blah. And they'll sell something that I go, oh, well, they know who I am. They know my boat. I know what's going on. And everything is tailored to the individual person. Not only that, it can do dynamic imagery too. So I can pull images that are curated to me personally, which I think is super nice out of HubSpot. So HubSpot has a lot of very dynamic things that it can do that with email marketing in particular.
One of the common themes at a conference like this, a seminar like this, you go outside, you have a cup of coffee, and you'll hear yacht brokers complaining about things. We love doing that. One of the things that they complain about most is how expensive insurance is. And it's just like out of control. It's one of the biggest obstacles, I think, for our industry's kind of medium-term growth. One of the things I've been learning about, and I think you guys know more about this than I do, is kind of like weather prediction stuff. And you think about hurricanes and storms, and I heard a really interesting conversation recently about how better prediction of weather will lead to dramatically lower insurance costs for a lot of different verticals, right? And I mean, and you could think of marine space specifically with named storms and all that stuff. Do you guys know anything about that? Have you heard? Is that 15 years from now, or is that like 2 years from now?
In the email that you sent 2 days ago, I was like, oh man, this is a great question. I can't wait for this. Yesterday, Google came out with GenCast, which is their large language artificial intelligence model that's put on top of 15-day predictions for weather. So they trained it from all the data up until 2018, and then they tested it against the 2019 forecast that actually happened.
Looking out 2 weeks.
97% more accurate than the largest models that are already out there right now. So like the European models or anything like that, 97% more accurate than those. So they're already in place now. It's now that tool is going to be open source and it's going to be available for people to pull down and use, but it's not going to be as easy to access like ChatGPT. So you're going to need some technical implementation. So yeah, in between your email and today, they literally came out a tool for that. So
and it's going to get better and better and better and better.
It'll always get better and better. The more aggregate data that we were talking about that it has, the better on the prediction.
The other challenge we have as an industry is crew. And we love them, also kind of hate them. It's like one of these weird, like,
necessary evils.
Yeah, and I mean they're it's just a tough, weird relationship sometimes. And there's safety. I mean, there's all kinds of things that are related to operating a yacht. We hear obviously about Waymo and what Tesla's doing and the automated driving stuff, which is basically a car that drives itself, of course. How likely is it, do you think, we're going to have I'm not picturing in my mind a cyborg-looking captain but like a boat that is able to dock itself without the assistance of a human? Is that 5 years, 10 years, 100 years from now, or you think that's like next year?
Let's go around the room.
I mean, I think we're closer than we think to technology like this. I just think that, not being in the yachting industry every day, I don't know what regulatory looks like. I don't know what ethical slowdowns we might have, and certainly don't want to offend anybody that's on the ground. But I think that we will get there. It is a complicated problem. We think that we're close with cars, then we should be close with the marine industry. But there are other challenges involved in it. But I would say my prediction is in a 10 to 15 year time horizon.
Okay.
I agree with that. I think it's probably 10 years. It's an interesting question because there's already autonomous marine taxis that are already operating in small marine areas. When does that become that? You already have navigation and self-docking already. That it already happens. I don't think it'll ever become, I get on a boat without a captain that could take a rough situation or a scary situation and not be able to navigate me out of it. I rode an autonomous car in Vegas. I was terrified because there's 3 dudes up front with laptops, and I'm a computer guy, and I should feel safe. They're like, dude, this thing can see 3 miles away, and it's doing 50,000 predictions a second, right? It's better than any human could ever do. And then you got to go, well, if it was driving my boat, it's got to be better than me drinking. Yeah. So
pretty good.
Maybe I'm a little bit more optimistic, but I'm thinking 5 years out, and we'll have regulations in place where if you're not using an AI-assisted navigation system, you're right for higher insurance on that boat, and it will always be better at predicting what's going to happen than the human is because it can access more data. And so I think it'll come through regulation.
And there's a lot of infrastructural stuff there too. And I'm thinking about the smaller, or it could be big stuff too, where the marinas would need to have guiding posts and redo the pilings, and there's all sorts of, but that I think could lead to a greater market. I am right now just thinking about docking at Southport and on a boat with my family. I get nervous. Like my hands start sweating. It is horrible. And I think when Rivers, Tim has a daughter named Cree. If Rivers was ever to take Cree out on a boat, he won't have the Denison like palms sweating because he's scared that he's going to do something stupid. And that, I think, will lead to a broader market for people that want to get on a boat, but they're a little nervous, right? That Rivers and Cree, they'll hit a button and it'll just go into Southport for them.
Yeah, outside of the fact that Cree's going to be driving Rivers, but
Maybe. All right, cool. I think we have 2 questions, and then we're going to open it up to some Q&A. One of the questions I had for you guys was the idea of safety and kind of like ops on board. And I think of like somebody gets hurt, somebody is, just keeping the kids safe and all that stuff. Do you think that there is a way that AI will improve or result in less injuries on board? And what would some examples be?
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, we're machines do things better than humans. As uncomfortable as that is, there's a lot of things that machines will take over that they're just going to be better suited for. So I think that when we can get safety in the hands, obviously there's a lot of gray area, and when we're talking about human safety, but if we're talking about something as seemingly obvious as fire on a vessel, right? I mean, we would much rather have an autonomous a robot or something that is not sentient going in and saving somebody than risking human life. And I think that those things are absolutely within our reach very, very soon.
Yeah, I mean, on the safety side, I work a ton with, 150,000 square foot retailers, for example, right? Loss prevention, someone stealing something. That's all artificial intelligence, machine learning enabled. I've got to work on some private projects that are kind of crazy, but, Disney World has a machine learning model to see if a child is reaching or stepping over a fence, right? And immediately flags it and sends a team to that area so that they don't get hurt. So those things are already in place. Now they just need to get moved over into the industry. And there's some things that need to happen, like the data aggregation standpoint, but those models definitely exist and can be implemented.
Yeah, I've been working with a motor builder for the last almost 2 years on telematics, and we're mining this data so I can see 50,000 engines, and I can see when something gets hot in a certain area with this type of RPM, then this is probably going to happen. And we can do predictive modeling going, you've pushed your boat too far, alert that boat that is on the water at that time, shut that boat down before it blows up, right? These are the types of things that we can do, which is amazing to me. So absolutely safety and preventative things, the weather and tying that into weather conditions. And
Insurance getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. And then
it's a good thing for the industry.
Yeah, big time. As we close it up, you three guys are men that I respect a lot because you read a lot. You are great at just like consuming information and making good use of it. Is there like a book or a podcast or something that you would recommend just on this topic for anybody that's getting excited about it, says, yeah, I want to leverage this technology to make my life and work or at home like work for me? We'll start with you, Rob, then we'll go down to Tim. And
all right, self-promotion time. Every single week I put out 1 or 2 articles on LinkedIn. It's called the Innovator's Edge newsletter that goes out, super digestible. If you're looking for podcasts and you want to get really deep on the technical side, Lex Friedman, if none of you have heard before, really fantastic MIT artificial intelligence and computer science guy that has a really wide-ranging topic that always focuses on.
And your LinkedIn thing is called what again?
The Innovator's Edge.
So if you Google that and
Google that or my name, connect with me on LinkedIn, it'll pop up. Check it out.
Mike?
I'm a NPR Radio Lab guy, and they just did one called The Shell Game. And if you haven't listened to The Shell Game, go and do that. It's amusing. This is a guy that takes a voice AI and trains his own voice and then calls his friends to see if he can fool them. And he called his therapist, and he had a therapy session with his AI self. And this guy journaled for, I don't know, months and months and months, and went back to his grade school and trained this AI model on himself. And so the AI could become as much of himself as it could. Talk to his therapist, and now he's listening to himself answer questions in third person.
Yeah.
And he figured out a whole bunch of shit about himself. And so it's a 6-pod episode of this AI talking to a therapist, which is a lot of fun, and his friends.
And that's cheaper than a therapist.
It is very entertaining. It's obvious that it's an AI. I don't think we're quite there. You know when you're talking to an AI on the phone. But Shell Game is my latest obsession.
I like that. Tim?
I'm going to co-sign Lex. Lex Friedman is an amazing resource and great podcast. But if you want a little bit more of the training wheels version, there's 2 younger entrepreneurs that have a very popular podcast called My First Million, and they're always touching like the surface level of a lot of things that we discussed today. I think you can get some practical advice about what they speak about.
Very cool. That's awesome. Thank you guys very, very, very much for answering those questions. And Paul, do we have a few minutes for some questions?
We do have time for some Q&A. One of the things I wanted to mention to you guys that you bring up is incredibly interesting in that in the aviation, do we have any pilots in the room? Andy, I know you got a little experience in the air. Bill's a pilot. So Garmin has come forward with a technology called AutoLand. And if you buy a Cirrus and it has Garmin electronics in it, there's a little switch on the panel. And if I'm flying the Cirrus and I have a heart attack or I pass out or I drank too much while I was flying or my barbiturates kick in or whatever the hell happens, and Charlotte gets a little nervous, she reaches over, opens the guard, pushes the button, and it takes over the airplane. It reads the navigation system. It pulls where I am. It takes the airplane to the nearest airport, notifies the tower that I'm on approach, clears the airspace to land, lands the airplane, and taxis it. I don't remember if it actually contacts an ambulance or not, but this is a technology for an airplane that cruises a little over 200 knots, and they also put it in the Cirrus jets. So I would dare say we're not 5, 10, 15 years away from auto-docking scenarios, but your kids better watch out. His palms are sweaty. You better keep himself, right? What questions do we have from the audience? AI, it is the future. The future is here now, and you need to know more about it. Pick a question. Pick an expert. Mike Scalisi. I can always rely on you. Curious minds.
So how do I take my HubSpot list and have it scrubbed and eliminate
the not yacht buyers and tell me who I'm not contacting that is a yacht buyer.
Actually, Mike, if you could email me that list, I'll.
Yeah,
I love it.
we'll scrub it for you. That's what.
Do you guys that's a really practical, because one of the struggles of a yacht broker is you get an inquiry, and we have some crazy examples of they could waste your time for hours, days, weeks, months. Is there any tool that you know of or any technique with AI that could help you kind of figure out if somebody's qualified financially or not?
Well, HubSpot has their internal product on the platform called HubSpot Breeze. So if you want to give HubSpot more money, you can use that tool, or you're probably already paying for it in some of your licenses. But you can start with that, and you can help tailor your personas in to get a little bit closer. But if you wanted to take it out of HubSpot and cleanse it and give it another pass, that's where you can bring in a tool like Zapier and ChatGPT to connect the two. And you'd export your list from HubSpot, run it through ChatGPT, prompt GPT with the persona parameters that indicate a better buyer, or rely on it to take some guesses at that. And then you can just keep fine-tuning the audience in from that perspective. So you can actually do it on platform now. That's something that HubSpot and Salesforce has their own version of.
You said it was called Breeze?
I think HubSpot calls theirs Breeze.
Yeah.
They've been through a couple names from ChatSpot. I think it's Breeze. It's what? It's just okay. I've always been lukewarm on it. They're going to get better every month, right? Just like all these tools. But my default there would be to rip it out of HubSpot, send it through GPT, and augment it with Apollo.
Yeah, there's a couple of programs like Gong, Gong.io, and these are predictive modelings. You can put conversations in that you've had with that customer. You can set threshold limits and then say the predictability of this customer buying something in the next 30 days is blank based on your triggers, right? So this is done in e-commerce. So they've looked at this thing 3 times. They've looked at other things 3 times. It's likely that they're going to buy from you. You can set your own targets in here. They've brought up the word this, or they've gone, give me a quote. And these are trigger words that you can have predictability on buying, right? So we typically will dump something into like a never bounce. Is this actually a legit person? I would run them through an enrichment and get qualification scores back from them. Are they qualified as a buyer? Yes or no? And then have they given me conversations that led me to believe that they want to buy something in the last blank days? Then that's narrowed down my list, right? So I would encourage you to pull it out and put it into several different things.
Yep. Great question, Mike. Thank you.
What other questions do we have from the audience?
Question for Mike. Regarding the Google ecosystems to rely on it in good measure, would you advise using Gemini to optimize the campaigns on YouTube, search engine marketing, etc., over ChatGPT?
Oh, I love this question because I am a Gemini fan, and you need to understand the difference between ChatGPT and Gemini. Gemini is a creative platform. It's a creative tool, and it is more on the image side and the creative thinking side. It's more left brain than right brain. If you want to have a political conversation, go to ChatGPT. If you want to have something, I want to frog surfing on fire, then I'm going to go to Gemini. Gemini, you can dump actually all of your Google AdWords into Gemini and ask it to brainstorm creative approaches based on the same ideas or conversion events that you're already looking at, right? So conversion is, I want them to go and click on a Sunseeker, right? And from that, brainstorm different things that appease these types of people that click on these yachts, right? So go out and look at the internet. Tell me what other things these people are looking at besides Sunseekers, and interject those into my ads and see if it converts, yes or no, and then write those ads for me. And then ask it to brainstorm other marketplaces that you could put that ad in Gemini. Gemini is really good creative thinking, but take it, all of this stuff, like Gemini and ChatGPT isn't the holy grail. You have to read the stuff. It's not, sometimes it gives you garbage, right? You go, that I wouldn't say that, or that's totally false. So it's only as good as the data that you give it. And Gemini is the most creative. I don't know what you guys might want to say something else, but I am entertained by Gemini because it gets me thinking outside of the box.
questions?
How that? Because we don't know as much, and this has been a great opportunity to learn so much more than I was even aware of, is the ability of AI to impersonate you, to call other people and do things. Will there be, on the other end, a way to say, not really the right person? Or, I mean, there's two sides of technology. One, you're using it for information to do things. But other people are looking at it. Can it protect me from not stepping in the wrong box?
Yeah, I'm happy to take the bureau approach on this. Artificial intelligence creation tools like Gemini or anything along those lines will always outpace artificial intelligence detection tools. So you're going to have better and better creation tools to make a copy of you, voice, image, video, etc., than you'll ever have for a detection tool. What does that mean? That means the bad guys are always going to have better stuff than the good guys have, right? Which is pretty standard, however law enforcement ever works. Realistically, you'll have technology that will stop and mitigate things, but you should have standard operating procedures within your business that are outside of technology to stop bad people from gaining access. We've seen artificial intelligence used and deepfakes used to have people transfer $250,000 to a third-party vendor, up to $25 million to a third-party vendor because a deepfake said change this routing and accounting number. So yes, there are going to be tools. No, they'll not be always the best, but you need both the technology and the process to stop bad guys from doing bad stuff.
I love that. As the next question is had, can you share a story really quick? The one about the dude that created the song.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So the FBI just publicly released this lawsuit. A man named Michael Smith out of North Carolina. He created artificial intelligence music. He took that music, uploaded it to Spotify, Tidal, and every other streaming service, then created a bunch of computers that only streamed his music to the tune of $10 million in royalties, which is illegal and it's fraud. Don't do that. And then he also set up a bunch of shell accounts to get that money out. So yeah, that is just one very prime example.
Totally awesome.
Yeah, awesome, but super illegal. Don't do that.
So I was wondering what Michael W. Smith was up to. So I guess that's his.
Yeah, that's what.
Well, the other interesting thing about that is that he went out and mined all the songs that were the most popular in the last 10 years.
Right, it dumped it into that.
Put it in there and said, I want you to create a song that's utilizing all these hooks and catches that are like awesome. So he made the best song ever based on computer mining, which I thought was super.
I thought that was Taylor Swift.
Well, Taylor was one of them, actually.
I'm sure she was. We got time for one more question. You've got some incredible minds here that are talking about the tools that we need to be using as individuals on a day-to-day basis to enhance our ability to succeed.
Yeah, as you walk over there, if you're using the free ChatGPT model, please just pay the $20 and turn off data collection.
What he said.
So with cryptocurrencies, do you think that's going to be a big part of it, or is that just going to be a separate thing? How do you see it playing in? That's for, yes, anyone.
Big part of the AI conversation, or anywhere in yachting, or what?
More like technology, I think, just in general.
I mean, I think we're here. Obviously, that conversation kind of ebbed and flowed, and now we're hot again with Bitcoin hitting 104.
Yeah, we'll get two. Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, short answer is, I mean, if you're a believer in the technology, then like me, you would say that there's a solution for this at some place. Much like as a product developer, what myself and my team do is we leverage the relevant technology of today. And so AI is obviously taking a lot of oxygen, but crypto and the blockchain is a similar tool if you look at it through that lens, in the sense that we can solve problems with this technology. So that's where my stance is on it. And a lot of technologists and in my world, I think would say something similar.
Cool.
You know, many times over the years, what we've done is we've saved a keynote speaker for our last topic. And one of our concerns is always, will we keep the room full? You guys have star power. You've done an incredible job. Thank you for bringing a really, really relevant topic and conversation to our audience of hungry minds and inquiring minds who want to know. Bob and the panel, Tim, Mike,
And
Robert, it's okay.
thank you very, very much for your insights and your knowledge. Great job.
That was mind-boggling, literally. I want to thank our presenters and our speakers and our panelists, everybody else who participated in this production today. I also want to thank our sponsors. They're around here someplace on the walls and all over. And also I want to especially thank you for your attentiveness and your sticking around, actually. So right now, we invite you to have a cocktail or other refreshment out in the lobby with us. And thank you again, everybody.